Hi, my name is Ashley Ludwig, and I have my professional educational portfolio here to present to you. I have spent the 3 years working as an educational assistant in a K through 5 self-contained program. My students generally have autism spectrum disorder or a similar communication disorder. And then this summer, I finished my ESL practicum during our migrant summer school in a first grade classroom with a blend of some kindergarten students. And then just recently I completed taught at a K1 Jumpstart camp with my students being first grade. So most of my pieces will come from these areas. The first competency I have is to assess the knowledge and skills of students in relation to long-term content goals and district standards, determining the knowledge and skills each student needs to accomplish them. I've included my pre and post data sheet from summer school. I taught a math unit around using measurement and money. So the pre and post data sheet is what I used to track the alignment with district standards and if the students had met them. The other artifact I included is a data tracking sheet from the special ed classroom that I work in. And we use the STAR curriculum, which is designed for around autism research. And DT stands for discrete trial. One of the ways that we teach the students is through discrete trial. And so the data sheet shows whether the student correctly had the correct response, had an incorrect response, and then was corrected with a prompt, and if it was incorrected and not corrected by the teacher. This is something we use to assess the skills of students on a regular basis and is used for IP goals and whether or not a student has accomplished them. The second competency is to design instructional plans that incorporate knowledge of students' developmental levels, interests, abilities, and learning accomplishments consistent with content goals and district standards. I have shown an image from an application that I use called Touch Chat. And this is an application we use in my special education classroom so that students can communicate. More specifically, I used this application as part of my action research project to help students with literacy. So this application was used in conjunction with leveled books that I read with students, or they read with me, and then the application gave them the opportunity to answer simple questions from the text, WH questions. This application is one that we had the opportunity to use on our iPads through a grant, and plan to continue to use it across other content areas. My second artifact for competency 2 is an image I took from my student teaching experience for my ESL practicum. It's hard to see. The picture is of materials that I had laid out as part of the math unit I did. The students, we called it Measurement Market, and the students all purchased their materials to make crafts, had to measure them, purchase them, make crafts, and at the end they sold their crafts from each other. And the unit was wonderful because it required students to have a real function in using skills like measuring or money. They had a reason to do it, and it was engaging. It was right on their developmental needs, and the students were happy to participate in this activity, not even realizing all of the educational standards they were meeting. The third competency is to establish a classroom climate conducive to learning, using positive classroom management, a safe and developmentally appropriate environment, efficient organization of time and materials, and effective transitions. The examples I've used come from my most recent K1 Jumpstart camp. One of the things I have is a resource I used for classroom routines and creating teach-tos, spelling out PBIS and the behavior expectations of our school. And as part of this Jumpstart camp, all the teachers met together, and the grant and the teachers were in agreement that the major goal of the Jumpstart camp is to prepare students for entering kindergarten and first grade, with the goal being around their behavior and understanding the school expectations, school and classroom expectations. So this resource was used to design the most important routines that we taught for the week. Second part of the competency, and from that same camp, is a rubric that was designed for the 3 areas that we targeted. We targeted line expectations, classroom expectations, and recess expectations. The first day we tracked students based on the rubric, and then again on the last day. Based on our assessment, the class as a whole showed growth even over just the span of 4 days. It will be interesting for us to see how these students, the kindergarten, first grade students who participated, how they do once the school year begins. Some of our data is very preliminary, and we don't know how this will impact the classroom. Our anticipation is that going over these routines makes for easier time the beginning of the school year for creating classroom management. For competency 4, implement instructional plans that employ knowledge of subject matter and use research-based educational practices that reflect how students learn, are sensitive to individual differences in diverse cultures, and encourage parent participation. My first artifact is an image from one of my assignments that I had during my math unit at summer school. I created a coin flip book, and on the front it had all pictures of the 4 coins, and when they opened it, we had a poem for each coin, and then basic information about the coins, how much it's worth, and how we identified the coin. This was a tool that we used in class to reinforce the concepts that the students needed to understand about coins, and then we sent it home so that students could use this with their families. Part of why I loved this assignment is that it helped for students to organize their information. It was musically formatted with the poems, and the language was precise for our language learners, so it really met the needs of all students. The second artifact I have included is a copy of the plan book from summer school. And this is a great tool to organize not just how the day is going to go, but we also include the standards that we were targeting during summer school in our team teaching. This was very important because we had to be all on the same page and meet the needs of all the students, and organizing that and having an idea of where we were going kept us on track. For competency 5, collaborate with parents, colleagues, and members of the community to provide internal and external assistance to students and their families if needed to promote student learning. I have my artifact, which is the program from our summer school celebration that we had with the community and family members. So the Migrant Summer School is something that's been going on for quite a few years in our district, and I've taught for the last 2 years. This year I was with 2 master teachers, myself, a high school intern, a bilingual ed assistant, and then 1 volunteer for 43 students in our classroom. It was an amazing team teaching experience. But part of why I included our program is the summer school itself is designed to meet the needs of our most disadvantaged population. So our migrant students, Title I and Title X, are eligible to come to summer school. The first half of the day is spent for instruction, reading, writing, math with myself and the other teachers. when we leave, the migrant students, stay and receive instruction from teachers from Mexico, as well as participate in other cultural activities. So this program as a whole engages the community, the teachers, and the families to serve these students so that they make up for any losses that happen because of their situations. And then also part of why I think it's so important for these migrant students and these English language learners is we know that them identifying with both of their cultures is going to lead to their success. The second artifact I included is a survey we used for the Jumpstart Camp. This was one that we took from and modified because this is for kindergarten, and we created two different surveys, one for kindergarten and one for first grade, and then also did some demographic surveys as well for our families. And this was just an opportunity for us to contact the parents about their perceptions of how the camp impacted their students, and it will be used as we make changes for the following year, since this was the first year we did this Jumpstart Camp. For competency 6, evaluate student progress in learning, refine plans for instruction, and establish alternative goals or environments for learning when necessary. I have included one of my instructional tools from summer school. We used Mad Minutes to get a baseline of where students were with their addition and subtraction facts up to 18. And then from there had the students take a similar kind of test, but based on breaking down the skill. So adding 0, subtracting 0, adding 1, subtracting 1. And we continued this on up through doubles, adding 9, wherever they were. And it started to create groupings in our class. And there was definitely a need right around adding and subtracting 1. We had a good chunk of students who were struggling with this skill. And it seemed most advantageous to remove them from some of the instruction that was coming later on. They weren't ready for it, and intervene and work on that first skill. So I created these number lines, and we used either paper clips or clothespins and practiced with these and put started the number 8 plus 1, and we moved it forward. And this was a tool we used throughout so that they had the visual image of the number line to help that it moves over 1 or it goes back 1. The second artifact I've included is a data tracking sheet that I used in the self-contained classroom I work. This is a PRT data sheet, and PRT stands for Pivotal Response Training. This particular program is specifically for student language and play. This sheet is to look specifically around the language that they're using. And this way I can make changes to what they need to learn, what they're, and can see if they're doing this across the board with other adults. For competency 7, document and report the progress of students in achieving content goals and district standards. I've included the first artifact, which is also from summer school. Very hard to see here, but this is based on the math intervention I had just spoke about briefly, and from a Google Doc, we broke down each test that the students were given. Add and subtract 0, add and subtract 1, 0 and 1s mixed together. Doubles, subtract doubles, add 10, subtract 10, add 9, subtract 9. That's the scope we reached during summer school. In a first grade classroom, we would continue on. The data sheet, we marked if they had completed it. It wasn't, they moved on. And if by the summer school they hadn't mastered that skill, we put their final score out of 30. This was a daily activity that they participated in a 2-minute fluency test at their level.